I know that you're saying this is a test, it's a pilot program, but let's talk hypotheticals. Let's say it goes swimmingly. Would this be just a one-time thing, or would this be every year, every 3 years? What does this look like in the future?
Well, the one thing that you can find bipartisan support for in Washington is support for our veterans. Giving back to those who have given so much to their country and to us as citizens. We all come together when it comes to supporting our veterans. And so if you see this really take off, I would anticipate that it would have bipartisan support from both the administration, which would be in charge of running the pilot program, and also the House, which is Republican run, on which I sit on the Appropriations Committee and the Budget Committee, and would be very anxious to work with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who support the bill now to see that it's either a permanent authorization or a broadening out of the pilot program. And, this is the kind of thing that I can see becoming a long-term option for veterans, and encourage more veterans to enlist, or more young people to enlist in armed services, because they know they've got those options when they get out of service.
I do want to talk about that bipartisan component that you did touch on. Last week, I spoke to your colleague, Representative Nikki Budzinski, and she's a Democrat. And I asked her, what policy areas can you see yourself working across the aisle on? She said veterans. When you introduced this bill, you introduced it with a fellow Republican and two Democrats. Why do you think when it comes to issues facing veterans, there is such bipartisan support?
Well, we all just admire so much the service of our veterans. There are more veterans now coming into Congress than there have been in the past few years. The World War II generation, we were losing our World War II veterans who were serving in Congress over the past several years. But now we have new veterans from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan coming in, and they are contributing to that support for veterans issues in the Congress. Those of us who didn't serve are lifelong supporters of our veterans, and we want to make sure that the programs that are in place, whether it's healthcare, whether it's retirement, we recently just adopted the PACT Act, which deals with burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the ailments that developed from working around those burn pits, making sure that the treatment was available for those veterans. So that was a bipartisan initiative as well. So you really do see us coming together, and at a time of really excessive partisanship, in my view. A lot of us are really seeking out those areas where we can work together, because there are plenty of areas where we're going to disagree, but there are fewer and fewer issues where we do agree, and we need to really try and build those bridges, because a lot of the problems that exist in this country are only going to be solved through bipartisan efforts together.
Congressman, to your point, it is very refreshing to hear members of both parties coming together for issues especially facing veterans. In the next Congress, do you see yourself working together with Democrats on any other policy areas aside from veterans issues?
Absolutely. I've introduced several other pieces of legislation already, dealing with the regulatory state, the administration. When parts of the administration are coming up with regulations, we need to make sure that there's accountability there. So requiring that regulations be signed off on by individuals confirmed by the Senate instead of a lower level bureaucrat, that type of initiative, that type of effort has bipartisan support. The bill has support from Democrats as well. And so I'm going to keep seeking out those areas where I can find bipartisan support. I won't hesitate to stand on my principles as a conservative, but I also want to make sure that we can get things done in a bipartisan way. In divided government, that's the only way you're going to get things done, is by working together.
And getting back to the Veterans Entrepreneurship Act, I know that you have received bipartisan support, but what has the response been from the public and from veterans?
Well, it's been a great support from veterans groups across the country. They've all signed up and made it a priority. So our leadership is hearing from these groups across the country in support of the bill. They want to see movement on it. Hopefully we'll see action in the Small Business Committee, where the bill currently is, and the Veterans Affairs Committee and the Veterans Caucuses that also exist. We're reaching out to them as well, because they are on all different committees, from appropriations to Ways and Means to armed services. And so getting their support is also going to help move the bill forward and get the support it needs to make it to the president's desk.
And Congressman, I know you did just introduce this legislation last month, but let's talk another hypothetical. Let's say it gets passed tomorrow. How quickly could we see this program implemented, and how fast would the pilot program be picked up?
Well, we would love to see it signed into law tomorrow, but if it is, we would anticipate the Small Business Administration would jump on it to start promulgating regulations for the pilot program immediately. And I would guess that the applications that could come in over the next 6 to 8 months could be approved to start off and have small businesses awarded with GI Bill benefits within a year.